Here we go. Hi, I'm Alyson Griffin. I lead the marketing department at State Farm, and I'm vamping for a moment so that I satisfy the legal team that we have shown our antitrust disclaimer. Okay. So I'm sure you all know what that is. Like a good neighbor. Yes, thank you. It's a loving crowd. I appreciate that. You didn't leave me hanging. Before I get into the meat of our discussion today, I'll give you two fun facts. That jingle is actually not just a jingle. It's a full song, and it was written in 1971 by Barry Manilow. The other fun fact is that this June, just in a few weeks, our brand turns 100 years old. I say that, it's awesome, thank you. Super awesome, but also a little bit strange because we're really trying to attract young customers, that tsunami of wallets that are hitting all of our brands and, millennial and Gen Zs. And we're 100 years old. And oh, by the way, we're in a category, insurance, that nobody cares about. I'm telling you, apathetic at best is what I'm dealing with. So I want to talk today about how State Farm is approaching this 100-year-old brand, how we're thinking about being a competitive weapon to drive our revenue forward, so marketing being that competitive weapon. And we talk about our programs internally in the context of business outcomes. And the truth is, all of you who are marketers in the room are doing this all day, every day. We're thinking about capturing current demand, generating future demand, and retaining our customers. But not only that, at State Farm, we're also trying to drive advocates out there in the world. We've got over 20,000 agents who are independent contractors. They are not employees of State Farm proper. And so we've got to help them succeed on the ground on behalf of us. And there's this interesting relationship that we have between the enterprise and these independent businesses. And so the marketing department is trying to help grow our business. We're trying to help create relevance, excitement for all of those agents who are across the country, living and breathing our brand in communities around the country. So today, I'll talk about our marketing program in three categories. We'll talk about the assets that we use, and specifically one of them. You may know what's coming. We'll talk about the influencers and our approach to influencer marketing. And then, of course, we're here at a content marketing summit, so we'll talk about content marketing as well. And hopefully, we'll open your eyes to a couple of new ways to think about it based on some of our learnings, and that you'll be able to go back to the office and sort of push a little bit in your organizations to potentially do something a little bit differently. And we will have time at the end for a Q&A, so please keep your questions in mind so that we can have a conversation afterward. So moving into our first category is assets. And we've got 6 assets that we use in different altitudes depending on if we're online, if we're in real life, depending on the kind of program that we're running. And so there's like degrees that we use these assets. And I'm sure you're familiar with most of them, some of them, all of them. But the most visible today is Jake from State Farm. He is a really fun, interesting character that I am really happy to play with, right? I think I have the most fun job. Sorry, it is an insult to anybody out there watching, but he is a delight. And we keep pushing him in new and different ways. So the little bit of history about Jake is, you'll see on the screen, Original Jake. Original Jake is Jake, and he is from State Farm. Way back over 10 years ago, we were putting real agents and real employees in our advertising, and he's one of them. He's a call center guy named Jake who wears khakis. And so we had this little cult classic come up. The commercial is, "What are you wearing?" If you all don't know what I'm talking about, look it up on YouTube. It'll probably remind you. But we were starting 10 years ago to create some equity around, I'll call it like one word, Jake from State Farm. Right, so there was some equity around it. It was with our original employee. And we realized way back then that we wanted to scale that asset a little bit and take advantage of the equity that we were enjoying with him. Excuse me. And so I've just got a frog in my throat. terrible timing. Anyway, so with Jake, we realized we needed a real actor, right? Somebody who had scale, who had time, who had the ability to stretch and do more things so that we could use that asset in many new and different ways. And so we cast a new Jake, and he ended up doing really well right off the bat. He tests perfectly. It doesn't matter age, gender, creed, sexual orientation, ethnicity. He's a pretty likable guy. The actor has done quite a good job with Jake. But we weren't getting everything we thought we could out of him. So in 2020, we had a brief for the 2021 Super Bowl. So not the one Super Bowl we just had, the one before. And I'm going to tell you what the brief said. It was really simple. And if there are any creatives in the audience, so exciting. The brief was, make Jake famous. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we did.
Hey, Ratchets, look! I'm you!
Jake from State Farm. You couldn't find a stand-in who looked anything like me?
Have you seen mine?
It's like looking in a mirror, right?
Now that one makes sense.
Look, guys, I don't even have a stand-in.
Of course you do.
Hold on, is that Drake?
That's right. Drake from State Farm.
Like a good neighbor. Like a good neighbor. Stand-ins don't have lines.
Oh, okay.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
So Drake from State Farm caught fire, and he got us all the attention that we were craving at that time. Again, Jake from State Farm had some momentum and some equity, but this really catapulted us and our brand into the forefront of pop culture. I mean, gosh, today Jake was an answer on Jeopardy. We've been in Saturday Night Live multiple times, sometimes not, anyway. But always good from a Jake perspective and always good for our brand. And riding that momentum and really leaning into that asset. So we decided to not just double down or triple down, we were gonna quadruple down on this asset. And we started rolling him out in various places. So I told you that we're in a terrible category that nobody really cares about, and we wanna attract younger audiences who don't even understand why they'd have to pay attention to insurance. So we thought, all right, with this fire that we caught, with this momentum that we have with Jake, could we put him in different places and get our brand asset out there more broadly? So we put him as the first non-playable character in NBA 2K. Now, any of you who watch live sports know that State Farm has a strategy around live sports, right? We are advertisers in the NBA, we sponsor the league, as well as NFL, MLB, et cetera. So it wasn't completely unnatural to have Jake show up in an NBA 2K game, but it was definitely unexpected. And we were testing and learning quite a bit there. We thought, all right, many things. Will anybody come up and engage with this character? If they engage, how long will they stay? If they stay and talk to him, will they go into the neighborhood goods store that we have and buy the apparel, the skins? If they buy the apparel, will they wear the apparel? Will they wear it around or just right there in the entry, location, right? Like, how many more things can we go and try and figure out? But we needed to know all of that. And by the way, this will come into play a little bit later in my talk. So stay tuned for that piece. But it was really, really interesting for us to go show and stretch and think about one of our assets that started over 10 years ago. If we leaned into it, could it work harder for us? So then we thought, all right, we got him there. We had also been a blue check mark on Twitter, and we had an Instagram account, and Jake started doing Reels. But what's the next big horizon? It's TikTok. So last November, we put Jake with his own TikTok account, and again, we weren't really sure how that would go. So to this day, we have not spent one dime, and I mean not one dime on media in TikTok. And Jake has grown from 0 last November to almost 400,000 followers organically. We credit that to, we're fortunate, we have a really likable character, and he's not a character, and he's not an animation, He's a real guy. And what he does is he reflects and represents the good neighborness of who we are as a company. He's authentic and has authentic interactions anywhere he goes, even in real life. So we're really excited about continuing to think about the assets that we have. Which ones can we push? And I encourage you to do that too. Is there one that you could double down on? Is there one that you can use in new and different ways? And we never would have imagined that Jake would grow to where he is today. And we're really excited that we pushed the thinking and that we gave the teams the opportunity to try something new. And I'll say this, my husband is a 30-year San Francisco juvenile probation officer, and I bring him up in this context because what we're doing is just marketing. You can try and push an asset. Lives are not being lost. This is not doing social justice good, right? We're marketers. So take that risk, think about your assets differently, and think about if one of them can be thought of slightly differently to go push you in different places and get your brand in areas that you never thought you could. So Jake has become somewhat of an influencer, and we're enjoying that success. And the next sort of section here is influencers. So while we have our own little mini influencer in the world, we also are marketers and think, just like everyone in this room, about influencers. How can we dial up and extend out a message by not our own voice and tapping into the audiences of big macro influencers? I don't know, billion followers. Is that like Kim Kardashian or something? Bigger than linear television, by the way. And we're also working with micro influencers. And so that's kind of the piece here where we've found a lot of interest and success in figuring out our customer, figuring out who they are, where they are around the web, who they follow, what they like, et cetera. It's the insights that P&G was just talking about. We follow that Bible completely as well. And are there better uses of budget with smaller micro influencers who connect very viscerally with their audience? They're creating the content. We don't have to pay our agencies to do the creative on some of these things. And they're creating content that is far more valuable to the audience that's following it because they know their audience. They know what will resonate. So for us, we don't only worry about the big numbers. And I say that out loud because historically, when you're only really playing on linear television, all you're representing back to your executives is big number this, big number that, big number this, big number that. And at the end of the day, we find more value in the right audiences with maybe a smaller number, but the conversion is so much higher. So I encourage you to kind of, if you were in the same rat race that we were in of numbers, 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 we changed that conversation internally, and it's been really beneficial for us. We're also thinking about influencers differently based on the campaigns and the narratives and the stories that we're telling in the market. So last November, coincidentally, we had our two quarterbacks. We have two spokesperson quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, and they were going to play each other in November in Kansas City. It doesn't happen very often. They're not in the same conference, and it's sort of every, let's say, 4 years or so it comes to be. So it was this last November. And we wanted to not only activate on site in Kansas City, as you would, right? We had the photo dome that fans could get excited there and share it online and extend the reach and all of those kind of campaigns that we all do all the time when we're trying to activate online or on site somewhere but extend online. But we also had an augmented reality game. We were giving away an NFT. Again, this is last November. I think NFTs were only 6 months old, and we're in the insurance category. So it was like, what on earth is State Farm doing? And what we were doing was trying to make a connection and get serotonin and dopamine flowing in excitement and connecting with all of these new young potential customers for the future and getting them engaged with our brand, actually interacting. And so how influencers come up with this is at that time we had an ad campaign that was running where Patrick Mahomes was cast as a sneakerhead and Aaron Rodgers was cast as a musician. Ooh, say that 10 times fast. And our narrative in the NFL commercials suite that we were doing was around those personal passions. By the way, those are real personal passions of the human beings of Aaron and Patrick, and they were super excited to be able to play those characters this last season. So when we wanted to trump up interest and engagement and excitement for the football find game that I was talking about, we didn't just go with the traditional influencers. We leaned into the narrative we were telling in the market, and we used sneakerhead influencers and musicians. The prizes we gave away were custom sneakers and tickets to concerts, among other things. And it was really, really interesting because these were not the kind of influencers that we ever would have thought about. I mean, sneakerheads, is that who I'm trying to target? But because it shone a light on the campaign and the narrative we were telling, it fit really well and worked really well. So again, the second set of influencers to think about, not just smaller ones that connect with your audience, but maybe a set of influencers that are tied around a narrative that you're telling in the market at the time. We had success with that. And then the third and last set of influencers that I want to open your mind to are influencers that are tied to who you are as a company, not the product that you sell, not the ad campaign that you're running, but your purpose. So for us, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there means something. We are guided by helping others. It's who we are in times of catastrophe. At a person's worst moment, State Farm is who's there to help get you through it. And we're going to do it together and based on communities. And so dialing up the message of social purpose and making sure that we're helping to build safer, stronger communities across the country in conjunction with our agents that are sprinkled in communities across the country, social purpose is a biggie for us. So we sought out influencers who were like-minded, who could share those stories and reach the kind of target that we were interested in to make sure that we were not only talking about get an auto quote, product, buy me, pay, but here's what we do in the most important times of people's lives. Here's what matters to us as a company so you as a potential customer know who you're doing business with and what matters most to us. And you can make a decision based on that. So we're teaming up with African American, Asian American, Hispanic, LGBTQ+ types of influencers, but also financial literacy influencers and community builders. Those are really important. So that last part of influencers is tied to your purpose as a company. Okay, we're here to talk about content marketing, and I want to spend a few minutes on that. We are as focused on content marketing as anybody in the room, and we know it's really important, but I'm going to admit to you right here, right now, in front of everybody, State Farm has not done a lot around nurture or content in the traditional sense that you would think about it. We're really great at big commercials, Super Bowl ads, and online video, and we have a lot of muscle memory around it. That's not to say that we have never done and don't do nurture journeys or content streams. We absolutely do. I'm just saying it wasn't the first thing that we do in our company, and it isn't where all of our muscle memory and agency partnerships and all that expertise is. It's a little bit outside of that. So we have the opportunity to leap forward and think about the next wave of content. I'll get back to the traditional wave, I promise here, but the metaverse. So we're now starting to consider, what do we need to do to play well in the metaverse? Who do we need to partner with? Do we have the right skills in-house? What little bits of content will resonate the most in this uncharted territory? And oh, by the way, which partners are we gonna link arms with and show up in this new space? It matters who stands next to us. Our company holds our values very deeply, and we need to pick the right partners to go in and enter this new space. So I said I would mention NB2K again later, and this is the spot. We have a little bit of experience having an avatar that exists in a non-real space, interacting with real people in a way like he was doing in NBA 2K. And we also have the opportunity to have some learnings around selling stuff, goods, that the avatars can wear in space. So we're gonna lean in on that, and it will definitely guide the directions we go in the next wave of content. But we also have to think about our traditional content. And like I said, we were really focused on linear television, and we realized we needed to shift some of our focus into digital channels. So now we're contemplating all of the various content. Now, I'll say something, it's slightly different than the previous spokeswoman from P&G. We think that you kind of can't have enough content, but it has to be right. So what I mean by that is in a nurture journey, from awareness to consideration, preference to purchase, when you're trying to make a connection and make folks understand, who are you, why do you matter, why do I care, I don't want to know insurance, it doesn't really matter to me. You're right that you don't want to get an auto quote and have too many of those pieces of content that don't stick and aren't relevant. But my goodness, people are around the web doing various things all day. And if we can be there with contextually relevant content based on what they're doing online and the kind of things they're thinking about, and we can add value all along the way, I think that you could probably consume hundreds of thousands of pieces of good content and really add value and make a connection to your customer. So we're thinking about the content in that way, contextually relevant around the web. So I'll give you an example. I'm a florist, and I have my own small business in a community somewhere, and I'm online and on the Chamber of Commerce website, and I'm thinking about, okay, is there a farmer's market in my area? Is there a Rotary Club I can join? Is there a Little League team I can sponsor? What do I do to get my name out there, right? I'm busy, I'm thinking about my business, it's all that matters. And then all of a sudden, get an auto quote shows up in my face. And I'm like, at the very best scenario, you just ignore it. The person ignores it. But at the very worst, they're like, what? An auto quote? Oh my God, my business needs to thrive. I need to get customers and get activated in my community. So what's better is, again, contextually relevant content about tips to market your business or small business loan. Maybe that person we've been following around the web, and we know that they've already engaged with some of our content, so we can get to a small business loan conversation. But before that, if they're new to us, then we give them something else that's relevant. And we're not just saying, get an auto quote. And so thinking about the digital space and all the different kinds of content that you could create is really, really important. And this is a hypothetical that some of you may relate to, but sometimes in some companies, not my company, the big product line wants all of the attention. Auto, auto, auto. And like I said, sometimes that auto commercial isn't the right thing. So having the intestinal fortitude to think about the customer and always advocating for the customer and always thinking about other ways into your big product, life insurance, renters, homeowners, financial security type products, whatever it is. Again, if a small business person is online, they'll be much more apt to connect with you and your brand if you're talking about the smaller product of small business insurance rather than the big product of auto. I hope that makes sense. But in my past, I might have had product guys who want me to talk about one thing when really insights tells me that the customer cares about something else. So have the courage to make sure you think creatively about the whole customer and that you're driving content that's relevant to the person and contextual for what they're doing online. So we think about helping more people in more ways. We are absolutely committed to putting our assets out in the world that make sense. We're pushing the limits of which assets we dial up and where they show up. We're thinking about different types of influencers, not only the obvious macro and micro, but also tied to the narratives that we have on the market, as well as the things that matter to us as a business. And for content, we're not only thinking about current nurture displays, we're also starting to dream about what could be in the metaverse. And with all of that, underpinning all of it is helping more people in more ways, helping people manage the risks of everyday life, recovering from the unexpected, and helping them realize their dreams for the next 100 years. Questions?
Thank you, thank you. It seems like our online audience had their coffee this morning because the questions are piling in. So let me just start at the top.
Okay.
First and foremost, influencers make sense in B2C. What about for B2B high consideration brands? How do you measure if it's actually working?
I'm so glad you said that. So I come from 27 years in the high-tech marketing world. I've only been at State Farm for the last year. And I say that because in tech, Intel and Hewlett-Packard, I was both B2B and B2C responsible globally at the same time. So not one country and not just B2C. And I believe that the best B2C marketers are those that have an understanding or have done B2B marketing and vice versa. So I enjoy a team that is a mix of both, regardless of who we're actually targeting. And I believe that in the B2B space, that nurture and using influencers, we used to do unboxing of products, for example. We used to have customer testimonials from big name brands. And those are types of influencers in and of themselves. And they absolutely do help businesses make decisions. And if you think about a business marketing relationship as some, I don't know, industrial big building that's nameless and faceless somewhere, you're never going to connect because B2B buyers are people. And so connecting with them and thinking about them the same way that you might a consumer campaign is really, really important.
Great, thanks. You mentioned the 100th year anniversary coming up this year. Any exciting activations planned that you can share with the crowd so far?
Yeah, it's in June. Our anniversary is in June, the first week of June. And we are sprinkling a lot of exciting and dazzling activations and things going on this year. Gaming is the next new one that's coming in June. All I can say is if you don't have Twitch, please go get it, download it. And you're gonna see us show up in ways that an insurance brand that's not endemic to gaming, it'll probably be quite surprising. So we're really excited about that one.
Great, thanks. To what degree do you believe Jake's organic success on TikTok is due to your presence on paid channels elsewhere?
Oh, I think it is. I said that we didn't buy any media on TikTok to promote Jake or advance his presence on that platform, but of course, we put a lot of energy and effort into Jake, and he's very visible, and we know that that helps bleed over. But we also believe that good content drives engagement, and we weren't sure at first. We were kind of doing Instagram Reels and just putting them on TikTok at the very beginning. And we now, I think, have our footing. It took us a little bit of time, but I believe that yes, some of the visibility, which is paid, around Jake in general, but having actual TikTok type content on TikTok and really understanding and engaging and tweaking and changing it as we're learning has really helped him explode. And I think the explosion on that platform isn't because it's just the paid piece of it. I think it's because we're engaging with that audience in a good way. And by the way, we have Jake on there. He doesn't just post and is invisible. He engages with the people who comment on his posts. So that drives even more engagement.
I think this is coming from someone in the financial sector. Given the disclaimer that you started with your presentation, I assume you work with an active legal team.
Yes.
And working at Wall Street Journal Barron's, we work with tons of clients who work with their legal teams ongoing. How do you still break through creatively, given the constraints you have from legal and compliance?
Yeah, it's a challenge. So we had antitrust and legal things around Intel as well, but it's wholly different at State Farm. So I'm sitting a little bit too. But it just makes it even more challenging because we're in the risk business, and that's what I have to keep getting my head around. That's just what insurance business is in general. So that carries over from the legal mindset into creative and advertising. And so, they're a lovely team and great, and they're just trying to keep us safe. But we have had a little bit of the sparring matches a couple of times, and I've had to sign up for I'm willing to take that risk kind of events. When we were giving NFTs away, that was uncomfortable. I didn't understand that one back in November. But we did it. And at the end of the day, the legal team is not there to be the department and no, they're there to help us be safe and successful.
Great, Thanks. Micro-influencers, excuse me. How do you find and connect with your micro-influencers? Through agencies, through active outreach coming at you, or all the above?
But you know what? It's funny. Like all of us, it comes from lots of places. Our agencies are wonderful, and we have a stable. We have many agencies that we partner with, as you can imagine, just for the breadth and size of the marketing that we do. So they're helpful in finding and making the connections for us. But you know what? Just like all of you, I have, not like all of you, this particular thing, I have 2 college-age boys. I'm not saying we all have 2 college-age boys, but like all of you, we have people in our lives who know things and say things. And my probation officer husband, I check stuff with him, especially when I was on the techie side in Silicon Valley. I'd say, does this make sense to you? Right? So we all have those influences. And I have to be honest, sometimes my kids are keeping me current.
Interesting. Question about linking Jake with a few. One is a social purpose effort, but also you mentioned sort of, truly from a P&L standpoint, can Jake be tracked to conversions and conversion rates? Do you go to that extent?
We haven't
follow through?
yet, not overtly, although there's campaigns that he's in that, of course, we're tracking to conversion. It's hard though, because he's in all of them now.
Ubiquitous.
And but I will tell you this. So when we did that football find in November in Kansas City, we brought Jake, and the foresight to say, when does Jake show up in person and when doesn't he? And I'm not exaggerating, and I'm shocked at what I'm about to share with you. There was an hour wait to take a picture with Jake from State Farm. I'm like, who would do that? Well, yeah, we made him famous. I guess it was crazy. And there was a little kid, actually one of them was a little 9-year-old kid, and he was at the front of the line because Jake was on a break. And we were like, oh, he's not coming back for another half hour. And the kid's like, I'm not moving. And we said, I promise I will put you at the front of the line. Do not make your parents stand here waiting for this guy. So the excitement around him is pretty fun.
I guess playing with the Jake angle, how do you protect State Farm from any negative behavior that Jake the actor could possibly engage in, and is that even possible? I
am not kidding you. We have been talking about that a lot because one of our quarterbacks had a little fun recently with us. So I'll just say we, of course, like any marketing organization, we have crisis communications plans in place. We have alignment with senior leaders already. Yeah. We have the ability to have commercials and assets that don't include every single one of our celebrity real people. And we're ready to go and just swap assets out if we have to, and statements. But it is absolutely something that we are very well aware there's a human being there, and he's a paid actor, and anything can happen.
Yep. One more. Can you share how successful the NFT play was for you? Did you get any backlash on the sustainability issues that surrounded it?
No, it was on a sustainable blockchain, as a matter of fact. We were smart about that. I come from tech, not my first rodeo. So we were smart. We weren't going to roll that thing out without dotting I's and crossing T's. We got a lot of really great press on it. In fact, the Wall Street Journal at the coincidentally same time in November was doing an article on NFTs, not on our football find. And we were the lead for the story in the Wall Street Journal. And it was like, whoa, the tech industry was probably kind of pissed, or at least Tom Brady's NFT company, which I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure it didn't make him very happy, but we're really, really pleased that we took that risk and that it got us a lot of attention at the time when it was just taking off and it was unexpected. So all of us showing up in places that are unexpected for our brands, I think, gives us that PR edge as well.
Well, Alyson, thank you for that, and thank you for the plug of the Wall Street Journal.
Thank you very much.
It's time for us to take our networking